Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices. Here in American Voices, we celebrate all that this country has to offer. So after hearing about people who do wonderful things and people's life stories, we also want to celebrate the land. So each week we invite authors to talk about a favorite place or sound in America. This time, Mark Kram Jr. is here. He has a new book out called Smokin' Joe, The Life of Joe Frazier. Here's Mark Kram Jr. on his favorite sound.
Hi, my name's Mark Kram Jr. My favorite sound is a typewriter. I use a typewriter when I type personal letters. It conveys more meaning than an email. So if it's a personal letter, I will drag out the typewriter, dust it off, and spend some time with it. I think typewriters demand that you contemplate what you're going to put down in a way that word processors don't. I write differently on a typewriter. I think and I clearly identify what I want to say before I put it down. My first book, I started on a typewriter because I wanted to think more deeply into what I was doing. When there is no delete key, you have to really be clear on what you want to say. As you know, on a typewriter, there is no delete key. You can't move paragraphs around. So you really have to be clear on what you want to say before you say it and before you commit it to the page. The work that was done on typewriters, I think, reads differently than the work that's done on computers. The percussion of the keys striking a piece of paper. A typewriter is almost like a musical instrument in a way. With each keystroke is another note. And I like that. Today, creativity is happening all around us, but it seems to be happening in silence. I have actually 4 of them. 3 of which are in working order, but they're almost like conversation pieces now for me to have them around. And they remind me of my youth, really, because growing up, Dad was a writer, and it always gave me the sense that I was in the presence of creativity, hearing him working on his typewriter. It sort of became a signal to me that I was in the presence of creativity. My father, I remember distinctly him writing. It was hard work. I could see that as a child, that it was not something playful. It was hard, meaningful work that he was doing. I have vivid memories of Dad. In fact, he worked in this very building. And I remember I was 16, and he had just covered the second Joe Frazier-Jerry Quarry fight at Madison Square Garden. And I was up on a visit, end of the school year visit, and he had to come to the office the next day to write his article for the magazine. And I sat in a chair, and as he sat under a light in a darkened office and composed his article on a typewriter, it's one of the most vivid memories that I carry to this day. And I remember the smoke from his pipe curling up over his head and the enlarging oval of sweat that formed on the back of his shirt, and how he sat there in long, torturous silence. And then he just seemed to just come alive. Just almost wrote the story as if he had imagined it in his head and was just transcribing it from his memory or from his imagination. And then we went out for soup. I was 16 or 17, and it was my first entry into his life in New York. So I was taking very, very vivid mental notes. Perhaps he was inviting me into his world. I remember the fight. I'd never been to the garden. I mean, all these were new experiences. Kind of intangible things are handed down, I think. We learned from our parents. I have my father's typewriter in my office. It's kind of a monument to his career. I don't think I'd want to get it cleaned and fixed. I think I want to leave it as it is, with the tobacco ash and the keys and the smudge marks all over it. I have a picture of it, and it just seems like, I don't know how the light actually happened, but it has this glow on it, almost kind of a heavenly glow around it. And It's something sacred.
That was Mark Kram Jr. He has a new book out called Smokin' Joe, The Life of Joe Frazier. Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.